Hello, hello, hello. Blessings to you and welcome. So beautiful to be with you. Lots of announcements, so please listen up, everyone. We have a retreat beginning in a couple weeks, November 7th through the 9th, online. If you'd love to come, we'd love to have you. If you need a scholarship, email me soon, right away, and I'll be happy to get you in the door, in the Zoom room. And I'm really looking forward to this retreat. Now, in the next couple weeks, I'm going to be traveling. And so I'm going to miss our next two Kundalini groups, probably. That's 1029 and 11/5, 2025, of course. And so just check in with Facebook. So I'll probably won't be here. If at the last minute I change my mind or I get to a travel destination where I can teach, I will. And I'll put that on Facebook. But let's just plan on Craig not teaching. And so if someone else wants to take over and lead, that's beautiful. I love it when y'all meet among yourselves. I think it's healthy and empowering for the Sangha to meet sometimes on our own. Okay, in addition to this, we have a retreat in Washington State, January 15th through the 18th. And stay tuned for details for that. And then in March 2026, we'll be at the Shiva Nanda Ashram in the Bahamas for the Spiritual Awakening Symposium. Details for everything is on the website. And yeah. Okay, so let's go from there. Those are all the announcements. The big thing is our next retreat coming up. Please reach out or just sign up for it in advance. And I want to let everyone know that retreat will have we'll begin that retreat just in, we'll call it real time. And then we'll be going into Mercury in retrograde on the last day of the retreat. And with Mercury in retrograde, a lot of times technological stuff gets off or gets confused or communication gets missed. And so make sure you sign up in advance. Okay. So the next thing I have a question. Someone emailed in and it's a beautiful question. I want to read the whole thing. Normally I hate long questions, but this one's excellent. It's from, I love it, Natasha Akasha. So the Akashic Records. Craig, could you share some wisdom on maintaining basic routines and attending to our human lives while undergoing this process of Kundalini awakening? One of my greatest challenges is trying to build and maintain my business, create an income, and generally be a functioning human being, a functioning person. While this process is often relentless and leaves me in states of consciousness that makes being human very difficult, I need help just with maintaining a schedule and routine, mundane tasks that need daily, regular engagement at routine times. I often feel like I'm straddling many layers of reality simultaneously, and it's hard to keep my feet on the ground. Yeah. So all of us here, at some point on our journey, come face to face with this overwhelming energy. And it's an energy of transformation. And transformation has this word in it, trans. When things are transitory, there's lots of change happening all at once. And it's really hard to get any ground under our feet. Really difficult. And so when we're in a transition phase, when we are being transformed, transmuted, transfigured, all these things that Kundalini does to us, with us, as us, there's going to be a lot of upheaval in our life. And so one of the greatest things that we can do is be disciplined. I was talking with Bill in the group the other day, and Bill said, I have discipline. Discipline is going to be a lifeline. Discipline is going to be what saves you. Now, for most people, as soon as their body is stressed, the first thing that goes out the door is any kind of spiritual orientation. And the second thing is their discipline. So we need to hold on to both of these for dear life, because I can talk, all day long about creating a schedule and a routine and this and that. But what we really need is this great commitment to our path. We need to look at this wild force of grace, this wild force of God consciousness that's coming into you and wanting to wake up. And we need to say, yes, more, please. Yes, more, please. And I'm going to show up and meet you fully, God. What most people do is they see this, they turn pale, and they run. They run in the opposite direction. And a lot of folks actually will resort to old habits of coping, like addiction, and just whether it's overeating, over, puffing, over, drinking. YouTube doesn't like when I talk about these things. We engage in activities that aren't good for us, that are not good for us. And, I think some of you had the great pleasure and grace to meet Bonnie Greenwell. She was a colleague of mine, and we studied under the same teacher. We had similar types of awakening, and we had very similar teaching. And it was interesting because Bonnie and I are two Westerners who, is for some, turn of events, we've met with probably more Kundalini awakening people than anyone else on the planet. It's just between me and her, we just met with countless individuals. And I'm not saying that, in a way to flex. I'm just saying this because what Bonnie came to and what I came to was the same realization. And I like it when, I'm just going to say this, when great minds come together and they come to the same realization, but separately. So Bonnie, I was speaking with Bonnie, and she said, Craig, the thing that people need is, and I said, opening to vast, spacious awareness. And she said, that's it. That's it. Every other Kundalini teacher teaches us how to pour more gasoline on the fire. But within us, the fire's already raging. What a big fire needs is lots of space. Lots of space. Now, I've been to big bonfires before. I've created big bonfires before. When I was a child, I was a full-on pyro. So we lived out in the country. We were just lighting everything on fire. And there's something that happens. If you light a fire in a teeny small room, you can't stay in that room. There's too much smoke there. And probably the house will catch on fire. So it's like, we don't want to do that. We want to have a big fire in a big open field. In a big open field. Under a night sky that's full of stars. That's the best time to have a big fire. We do so in a space that is vast and open. And so that smoke, that burning, that fire, that heat, it just flows up into outer space. And it's not a problem. But if you start a fire, like a little fire in your house, and I mean not in your fireplace, but in your house, in your room, in a closet, you can't stay in there for, 8 seconds. It immediately fills up with smoke. And so with Kundalini Shakti, the number one thing we need is not so much activities and routines and a schedule. The number one thing we need is this attitude that there is room, there is space for all this energy to arise. When we have this attitude, it creates a great sense of sanity within. And it's from this sanity that we practice. If we have a routine, it's daily meditation, daily yoga, as soon as you wake up, first thing in the morning. And for a lot of people who are like, oh no, meditation is far, too difficult. My mind's crazy. I'm overwhelmed with anxiety. Okay, great. Let's start by laying down, which you're already doing when you're waking up in the morning. You lay down, hand on your heart and a hand on your belly, and you breathe in this gentle sense of, I love you. And as you exhale, and it's okay. And we're speaking to our overstimulated nervous system. We're speaking to the body. We're speaking to the psyche. We're speaking to the one who's right on the edge of absolutely losing their mind. And so for some of us, like myself, like when my experience was so overwhelming, I'd lay in bed, for 15 minutes every single morning. And I would calm my nervous system right out of the gates. And then I would get up and I'd do a little bit of yoga and I'd sit down in meditation. And then after meditation, I might get up and go for a walk, get something to eat, do all those kinds of things. And then I might do a little bit more yoga. And then I might lay down on the couch or lay down on the earth, or, this beautiful tree. I actually was just by it the other day. I took my daughter down the street, but I used to live in this house, about 8-10 blocks away. And it had this big willow tree. And I would lay under the tree and watch the tree blow in the wind while this energy of transformation, transmutation would flow through my body. That was the daily practice. And so Natasha asked this beautiful question. One of my greatest challenges is trying to build and maintain my business. And I'm laughing at that. Because I tried to build and maintain a business at that point. And what happened? I failed miserably. Absolutely failed miserably. And one of the ways I did business was on YouTube. What YouTube likes is when your first video is a hit and it goes viral right away and you get a million bazillion followers, and it likes that. YouTube doesn't like a real slow, steady start, like how most businesses are born. YouTube doesn't like that. And with Kundalini Shakti, like, we're probably not going to be hitting any home runs in the realm of creating a business while you're overwhelmed with energy. You're probably not going to be hitting home runs. You're probably not going to be making $1 million. You're probably not going to be super successful. And there's a reason behind this. I'm not trying to be a downer to anyone, please. I don't want anyone to misunderstand me. There's a reason, which is the intelligence of the universe wants you to fully stop. Fully stop. And to face your life, face your karma. And there's no judgment around that. By karma, I just mean just all the things that have happened in your life. We face them and we meet them with love. As we meet them with love, we clear the chakras. As we clear the chakras, the energy becomes much more intense temporarily. And then it begins to integrate in a realm of deep peace and light and strength. And so, in a sense, like, this question is hilarious. I had this question also, by the way, like literally word for word, the same question. And I failed at everything in my life. I was in tremendous debt. My relationships were falling apart. My teacher needed me to, show up and serve more, and I served a lot less during this time. So I failed at work. I failed in relationship. I failed in the realm of success. And we're supposed to do that. That's part of the path, because what God is wanting is God wants us to give up everything and to focus on one thing. to focus on one thing. And that one thing is healing and awakening. Because healing and awakening is the most important thing for every single one of us on planet Earth. And I know like sometimes like mothers or fathers will show up and say, but aren't my kids the most important thing? No, it's the same thing as being on the airplane. It's like when that mask falls, from the whatever that is, the ceiling of the airplane, you put that mask on first, and then you help your kid get their mask on. And so when I was speaking with Bonnie Greenwell, I'll call her the great Bonnie Greenwell, she said, Greg, when people have this recognition of peace, of spaciousness, which is really, if I could say it just like kind of bluntly, it's really having a meditator's mind. A meditator's mind is, I'm rooted in the earth and I am open to the sky. I am the sky and I am the earth. When you have this as an all day, everyday routine, an all day, everyday spiritual practice, all the craziness, the intensity, the wildness, the facing the karma, facing the fears, facing confusion, facing disillusionment, facing the dissolving of the self, facing the falling away of the ego, facing all your desires as they fall away. And you sit in this radical openness. This radical openness has room, has great space for this bonfire to burn. And as you trust in your experience, everything will eventually fall into place. One of my new favorite things to say, I made a couple short YouTube videos about this. Everything in the end will fall into place. You give it enough time and space, give enough love, everything will fall into divine order. Now, this may take a month, it may take 6 months, it may take 6 years, it may take 16 years. But we have to remember, we are on God's time, we are in God's world, and this is God's plan. Now, some of us, myself included, said to God, I need money, this isn't fair, this isn't right. And God sat there silently, doing absolutely nothing for me in the realm of, let's say, financial security. God did nothing but throw me just like little crumbs, just enough so that I would survive. And yes, I lived on the edge of homelessness. I lost a house. I lost multiple businesses. I had so much failure, and I went into great debt. And in the end, it all worked out just fine. It all worked out just fine. But was it absolutely painful? Did I grind my teeth? Did it, make me want to pull my hair out? Was I totally stressed? Yeah. Could I have avoided all that through trusting fully and completely? Yes. Yes, I could have avoided the pain of the suffering and just accepted I'm on a healing journey. Now, Natasha, I'm going to tell everyone here, please do your best to show up for work. Do your best to create a business in alignment with your highest truth. Do your best to show up in any capacity that you can. Do your best. And in yoga, there's this old teaching, we show up, we do our best, and we let go of the results. The results are up to God. But this is going to be, I don't want to say one of the worst times, but oftentimes our life has themes. Like right now in the Northern Hemisphere, we're going into winter. We're going into winter. And if it's December 15th, it's not a good time to plant a tree. Not a good time to plant a tree. And in Colorado, we have these long winters. Like a good time to plant a tree is, May 15th. That's a good time to plant a tree. And again, I'm not saying this to be discouraging, but there's times when God comes into your life and says, hey, you, I'm going to stop you in your tracks. And we'll look up at God and say, hey, you, God, you don't understand my life. I need money. I need this. I need that. And God says, hey, you're going to be okay. But we don't hear that part because we tend to listen to the loudest voice within us. And there's some people, there's some people I've worked with who've literally spent 10, 15 years of their life. They're just overwhelmed with energy, overwhelmed with Shakti. And these aren't individuals who are greatly resisting. These are individuals who are showing up, they're doing their work. They're going to trauma therapy, they're going to regular therapy, they're going on retreats and this type of thing. They go to acupuncture, they go to the doctor, they get themselves checked out and they do the work. But sometimes there's just a lot of work to be done. And most of them end up really broke. But what I've noticed, and this will come as like a shock, but what I've noticed is that 99% of the people who go through one of these healing journeys, someone shows up to support them in some form or another. And whether that someone is mother, father, sister, brother, uncle, landlord, the boss, the government. I've had times when it was like I was absolutely broke and I couldn't pay rent. And I needed to pay tuition for school or whatever it was. And then out of nowhere, a scholarship comes in the mail. Just for like a scholarship I didn't even sign up for, but just a little check comes in the mail. Just enough that I can scrape by. And I'd love to be Joe Dispenza and offer some Joe Dispenza teaching about us all being millionaires and this and that, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to invite us to trust in God and to show up and do our best. And to wake up and realize the ego may be screaming at us that it's dying, that it can't do, that it's overwhelmed, that we don't have enough money, that we're broke, that we're in debt. My ego screamed all these things at me for years. And when I look back now, I'd look back at that guy and I say, you're okay. You're okay. The ground is still here. There's a roof over your head. And there's some potatoes in the cupboard because I lived on potatoes at that time. Potatoes, salt, and butter. Not much of a diet, but it was enough for me to live. Enough for me to live. And the point I'm trying to make here is that so many of us, we have these big ego ideas of, I should have this business. It should happen now. And again, there's nothing at all wrong with those ideas. I had all those ideas, every single one of them. I should be able to pay rent. My life should be sustainable. I should be able to get out and go for a walk today. I should be able to drive a car. I should be able to pay for car insurance, whatever it is. And it would be failure after failure after failure after failure until one day I realized, oh, I'm actually completely okay. There's this tremendous light here, this vast, spacious peace, and this raging freight train of energy flowing through my consciousness. I am free. And the mind would come forward and say, but you don't have $1. You don't have $1. And if I could rest in I am free, my body would relax. And as my body relaxed, my mind began to relax. And as my mind began to relax, I could see the next thing in front of me, whatever that real life, practical, daily, humaning was her language, task that I needed to do, and I had the energy to do it. But as soon as I went into my head and agreed with the story that I didn't have the energy, I didn't have the money, I didn't have the resources, life isn't fair, God, you're wrong, why have you done this to me? Why have you forsaken me, my Lord? All of a sudden, I had no energy. I had a mind full of confusion, and I could not do the task at hand. And so, in response to the question, yes, please meditate every day. Please do yoga every day. Come to this group. It's a supportive thing for us to help us to orient in the divine. Do the things that are wise. Eat good, healthy food. But this is a path of transformation. And if you try to walk this path while continuing to listen to the story, the voice, the argument, the complaints of your egoic reality, you'll find yourself stuck in egoic reality while God is raging through your body. And that'll feel like a real war. But if we just gently acknowledge God is raging through my body, the one who created this universe, the intelligence of all of life, the immense love of creation. What if I trust in her? And so if you haven't already, I'm going to invite you to close your eyes. I'm going to invite you just to sit with this one question. How could I trust more fully? How can I trust more fully? And if you look to your mind, you'll find 100 reasons why you should not trust. If you let yourself fall into the grace of God, you might find that quite soon, whatever obstacle is in your life, you will have the energy, the intelligence, the resource to be able to face this thing. And as a result, two things will happen. One, you'll begin to grow. Things will begin to shift in your life. And two, you will fall into alignment with the hugeness of the intelligence of God's universe. So on the path of awakening, there is always this choice to open and trust and to fall into alignment, or to continue to separate ourselves from God. And as a separate being, we will become proficient in complaining, proficient in resistance, proficient at saying no to this great movement of divine creation that's wanting to flow through you. And when we say no to life, well, life tends to respond with a big no back to us. No business, no friends, no support, no this, no that. But when we say yes to God, things eventually, and that's the key word there, eventually begin to shift. If we find ourselves trusting but not seeing the results, it's important for us to know that God is testing us, testing our faith. This is an age-old archetypal journey on the path of spiritual awakening. God will say, I need you to carry my cross. And we'll say, but I want to be in heaven. God says, carry the cross first, and I'll show you heaven. I'll show you heaven. I'll show you a whole new life, a whole new orientation. And so I can tell you that personally, I absolutely hate this teaching. Personally, if I was in charge of life, I'd do things a lot differently. But this is a world of growth. This is a world of evolution. This is a world where we are challenged greatly. Challenged greatly. Often in incredibly mysterious ways, where we are invited to look into our shadow, our shortcoming, our sense of separation, our belief in separation. We are challenged in all these ways to choose that which is higher, when it would make sense to listen to our egoic reality. And that's the game of spiritual awakening, is we make the higher choice, even when it makes no sense to our humanity, our human rational mind. And so it's a crazy world, it's a crazy path. But if we open, a new life will come to us in time. And so the invitation here is to trust in this. And one of the greatest ways, the easiest ways to begin to trust is when we step out of our discursive, complaining thinking mind. And we step into the vastness of the sky-like mind that has room for a big fire, that has room for a day, a month, a year, a decade, maybe a couple decades of transformation. And so, Natasha, I hope there was something helpful there in that response. I know it may not have been what you've been looking for, but that's my job, is to point out the things that we don't look for, the things that we are often unable to see, and to encourage us to continue to have faith, to continue to open, to continue to trust, to continue to let go, even when it makes zero sense to do so. Okay. And my life, my crazy, confused life that this one has had, is a testament to these teachings. It's a testament. So I've outlived all kinds of crazy chaos over the years. And I'd always look at God and say, this isn't fair. This isn't right. God said, I know, I'm using you. I'm using you. It's like, okay, God. Okay, but it's still not fair. God says, shut up, Mr. Holliday. Open that heart and trust. Open that heart and trust. And when we do that, a much, much greater view, much greater orientation comes online, even if nothing in your life changes. But for me, like, it's still a great success to have absolute freedom. Whether our life is really easy or really difficult, whether we're rich or poor, this or that, I'd rather have freedom than being lost in separation. And so